y'all, welcome back to another video of the Justin Cinematic Universe. I really am excited for today's video just because it is something that is kind of a deep cut for me and kind of a corner of the internet or like myself that I haven't quite explored yet, and that is going to be my vinyls. Like I mentioned on my socials before, I am an aspiring musician and I am currently in the development phase of my first LP named Expanse. I will be sharing more on that and my journey towards creating that in the future as soon as I can find producers, songwriters, and people in the process that will kind of help me further along this project. But without further ado, let's get started with the video. Now, I will be going in order of the vinyls I have in my little vinyl container, but I will be doing like a little breakdown analysis of each vinyl and its kind of like importance to me. So first off, we have a very special vinyl named Miss Control by one Miss SZA. And on the back, obviously, we have beautiful artwork, if it could focus. Beautiful artwork of computers and kind of that electronic kind of theme going on. Now, this album for me really speaks to the hallmark of a soundscape because what speaks to me most about Control is its sonics and its ability to like carry the tone of the song all throughout the song, whether it's like the instrumentals or the producing or the mixing or how her vocals are layered. It conveys really like a tone of like etherealness, kind of a forest vibe, in addition to her talking about all of the facets of Control and how her life have revolved around it, and just personal experiences as well. As you know, SZA is a savant even at songwriting, and I really pull inspiration from her when it comes to describing like emotional pain and kind of elaborating on that. And overall, I'm also, if I forgot to mention, which I didn't, I'm going to be rating these out of 5, just for simplicity's sake, since out of 10 kind of lends itself to a lot of elaboration. And excuse me if I'm wiping my forehead, it is Florida. You know that sound? That is what it currently feels like in Florida, although for my folks in New Jersey, I feel bad for you because you're having a heat wave. But not to fret, that is Florida most of the time. It just so happens to be while New Jersey's having its heat wave, that Florida is not. But not to fret, the gods of Florida will get us back. Don't you worry. Excuse me for a second while I fidget with my sound setup. Okay. Alright. Now, for the second album, I have we are going to be talking about Miss SOS. As you can see, again, the beautiful artwork kind of conveying this emptiness or a feeling of expansiveness, which I pulled from to create my album Expanse. That kind of feeling of what is out there in the unknown, what can you kind of pull from the nothingness that you may feel, or the overextension of feeling and exploration of that within all of whatever that encompasses. Now, compared to Control, I would say SOS really excels in its lyrical content and composition. In songs like Snooze or Nobody Gets Me or Low, you really feel the energy of the song and the message it's trying to convey. Specifically with her choruses, they really shine through in terms of hard hitting lyrics, in your face lyrics, and overall the vibe of SOS is just of, I would say, composition, because there is an aesthetic like I would say timbre like Control, but in comparison I feel like it's more expansive and lends itself less to this kind of isolated feeling of control, whereas SOS is like the chaos that comes with finally gaining control, which Control concludes in, but the repercussions or consequences of now having all that control, which is chaos, destruction, peace, even, and so on and so forth. and excuse me for not giving Control a rating for the last one. I would give a Control a 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5, simply because it is just so greatly visualized and composed. I really feel no other way about it. Now, I know this is a wild length to go, but I would consider, again, this Florida Heat, I would consider SOS to be a 5 out of 5. In terms of lyrical composition, in terms of vocal arrangement, in terms of her vocality, her range, and the methods she uses in this album, like her falsetto, her mixed belts, her low notes, like on low, ironically enough, got it. But yeah, overall, the Nat wanted to be in the video. I do not want to collab with you, Mr. Nat. But yes, overall, I would give SOS by SZA a 5 out of 5. Now, when we're talking about different artists, this is kind of in the whole different realm of like pop, but respectively, an artist with the same amount of vision or je ne sais quoi that you could kind of find in an artist. I feel like she really also has this capacity, which is Miss Dua Peep, and Miss Radical Optimism. Now, this album, to many, probably would be an album that could be passed over simply because of the fact that it is very pop forward. It is very, some might find it experimental in the sounds that it's using, but I would say it's like pop adjacent, alternative, kind of a little bit futuristic with some of the sounds. That's it in terms of um, producing and composition. But in terms of lyrics, I really find this some of Dua Lipa's finest work lyrically. She really delves into so many life topics during her songs and this whole album that I feel like really encompass and Radical Optimism, which is the name of the album and the vinyl, which that really speaks to this album. It's kind of perseverance in the face of adversity kind of vibe that she kind of exemplifies throughout this album. And it really just speaks to where she's come to in her career, her relationships, which she did get engaged. I'm not sure if she's married yet, but if she is, congratulations. To her boyfriend Kayla Turner. They are so cute together. I think they are straight bulls because we are a straight Christian establishment over here, just like my sister Terry Jo. Um, anyway, but yes. So overall, I would give Radical Optimism a 4 out of 5. I did love all the messages and composition and vocals, although I did feel like it was very much in that standard pop arena or sphere. So for that reason, I give it a 4 out of 5. Now, on to one of my favorite artists, who actually inspired me to write Expanse. All in all, is Miss Billie Eilish, and the album that we will first be covering of hers is Miss When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Now, this album really introduced me to the capabilities of music to kind of evoke an emotion, not just with the lyrics, not just with the composition, not just with the vocals, but the whole song in totality. Kind of like that artistry that really pulls you in, and I feel like Billie Eilish really does that excellently. She conveys an emotion through a song so effortlessly, and with Phineas's savant level production, it really just is an experience overall. Now, specifically when it comes to When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? I feel like this album excels in its lyrical content because just like so much of her work, the message conveyed is like what most people are paying attention to, but also sonically, just like with any Phineas album or Phineas and Billie Eilish album, the sonics are so impressive in terms of their versatility and their ability to get you moving. Um, Yeah, but that is just really the whole gist of the album, just really conveying emotion, that dark, somber pondering that really reflects the title, When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Because it's kind of like expansive, it's kind of leading you on to that message, that feeling, that conveying of darkness, while also simultaneous just being good music. So, my overall rating of that album or vinyl would be a 4 out of 5. And the only reason I'm saying this is because it is one of her earlier works, and you can kind of see that they're still like solidifying what they want an album to be, which they've said in like interviews, but it is like such a hallmark of their talent, and it kind of is similar to Hit Me Hard and Soft in that fashion of like being amateur in a way, but so raw and talent filled. Like the duality of it is what makes it such a great album. Now, for her sophomore album, which you might already be able to guess, we are going to be diving into Miss Happier Than Ever, which I really believe might be one of the most beautiful um, album covers or vinyl covers of any of her work. While I do think When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And Hit Me Hard and Soft have stunning covers, something about Happier Than Ever is just like quiet but strong and elegant but ruthless. I just think the album title is just so effortlessly captivating. Now, when it comes to this album, I do have a few critiques in the sense that some of the songs feel like they may drag on a little bit and kind of have a monotonous like song structure or like production, which is no fault to Phineas or Billy, but they even express making this album that some of the songs were made quickly, and this was kind of an effort for them to prove themselves in the music industry since it was their sophomore album, and it was kind of like an in between album that paved the way for Hit Me Hard and Soft, which kind of has more finalized balance of like both um, vibe and substance, which basically means that the songs are fleshed out, but they're not too slow paced. The lyrical content is captivating, like When You Fall Asleep, Where Do You Go? But also has the same kind of pull and body to it that Happier Than Ever has. And in total, I would give this a 3.5 out of 5. I really enjoy this album, but I don't find myself going back to it all that often. Um, which is not a indicator of its worth or anything like that, but it just is like a reflection of some of the critiques I have of it, while also recognizing how great of an album it is. And with that being our quarter mark through of our vinyl records, I would like to say thank you guys so much for tuning in to all of my content thus far and supporting me so far. I can't wait till our community grows and I can look back on this video and see how passionate I was about it still. Again, if you have any ideas about what kind of content you want to see or what you may want me to do in the future, let me know in the comments or on any of my other socials. I'll have that in my YouTube description as well. It should be in the description of the video as well, but if not, it will be on my main page where you can find it in the About section. But without further ado, let's get back into the review. The next album we will be speaking about is my highly coveted favorite album of Billie Eilish's, Miss Hit Me Hard and Soft. Kind of can't see that, which is great, but in all, this album for me really speaks volume to the aesthetics of the album. I've never found an album to be so representative of its aesthetics before in terms of emotion that it pulls from and the range of emotion this album goes through. You have somber, reflective hits like Wildflower and Skinny, while you also have great explosive hits like L'amour de ma vie and The Greatest. And that really is a testament to the lyrical composition and producing of this album, which I discussed in my 5 top albums of 2024 video, which we should definitely go check out because I talk about these albums more in depth, and I think you'd really enjoy that. But getting back to the album, like I said, the lyrical composition and production is stellar. It is some of the best I have ever seen in the industry. And again, this is the album that really mainly inspired me, or just like produced an urge in me to start creating and get into my album bag. Um, mhm. But it really is just a stellar album overall, which leads me to the rating I would give this album, and that would be a 5 out of 5. I really feel like there's no leeway here, there's no lull in the music, there's no weakness in the lyrical composition, nothing drags on, and it's just a great listening experience overall. There's something in every song for everybody. If you don't like one song, I feel like you definitely like the others. And overall, I just think it's a 5 out of 5 album. Now, when we talk about genre shift, we really talk about genre shift because the next vinyl we will be reviewing is Miss Louvie, or Miss Bejeweled, Bewitched. Me getting the album name wrong, that is right. But we're human. We are human. This album is just velvety to me. It is silky, it is sultry, it is longing, it is just all of those things. I feel like obviously the thing Louvie is most known for is her vocals. I really feel like her vocals just carry the whole song. Not in terms of they are the best part of the song, but they convey the lyrics in a sense that you can't compute in terms of reading it. When she sings it, it brings a whole other tone to the songs and her album overall to the forefront. And in addition to that, her variation in songs and themes of loneliness and wanting to be needed in a relationship and overall self worth are really excellently displayed in this album. And the vinyl overall and the vinyl cover are just so silky smooth, which I love. And I really respect this album to sticking to a tone and kind of feeling itself out, if you will, in terms of really sticking to its core strengths, which are the sultry vocals and the contemplative lyrics or lyrical composition. And overall, I would give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5. The only reason not being a 5 is because at some points it can get a bit monotonous, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's just so cohesive that some people might be off put by it, and why I hesitate to give it a 5, just because it's just something that I thought of, and in all other aspects, it's a 5 out of 5. But just for that reason alone, I give it a 4 out of 5 out of 5. Now, on to the next album. I have to admit, I have not fully listened to this whole album, but I've heard a great majority of it, and I feel like I really have a feel for the whole album, which is Miss Lana Del Rey, Miss Born to Die. When we talk about iconic albums, this is definitely that. This is a cornerstone of pop. It's a cornerstone of somber pop. It's a cornerstone of music in general because it's Lana Del Rey. Excuse that in the background. That is my mother vacuuming. We're going to ignore it. Now her somber nature really shines through in this album. It really captivates her ability to write lyrics that make you feel. But unlike Billie Eilish, this has more of like an Americana feel to it, which kind of lends itself to this like nostalgic feeling, or kind of this feeling of my Art Deco. Yeah. Um, but overall, it just really conveys this message very well, and sonically, it really brings you into the music, which I find very attractive. And for this album, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. And I'll fully admit this is probably because I haven't heard the whole album, or it's not specifically my music taste, but I also feel like the message can maybe get a bit monotonous. Excuse me. And overall, there is musical variety with the sonics of the album, again, I'm fully admitting to a bias I have, which could be that I haven't listened to the whole album. And feel free to critique me in the comments or provide like clarity on why you think this rating should be higher. Yeah. And the next album that we'll be getting to, funnily enough, is her latest album, or I'm not quite sure if her latest album has come out yet, but this is her last album, which is Did You Know There's an Ocean on Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Now, this album I would say is very much fleshed out to its full capacity and really, really has a great lyrical foundation. Like the lyrics in this album are to die for, born to die. Um, but yeah, and I do feel like while there is a cohesiveness, there is more of a variety to the songs in this album, which make it a great listen. And for this album, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Just a little improvement from the last album, and overall, I really enjoyed it as a whole. Now, kind of getting into a different realm of music, I want to introduce the album that kind of introduced me to this artist and kind of just is still like a mystery to me in terms of how I truly feel about it is Las Orquídeas. I'm not quite sure the name of the full album, but right off the bat, I have to say, Kali Uchis always delivers an artistic vision. Whether it's her visuals, whether it's the soundscape and atmosphere of her songs, she really excels in painting a picture for you with her music. And I think the songs in this album really display that. Like, it really reflects um, her ability to construe her audience and kind of make them feel for what she's trying to convey in her artwork. And for that reason, I'd give it a 4 to 5 out of 5 because I feel like it's near perfect. It's just, again, a little outside of my range of what I enjoy listening to, like compared to Hit Me Hard and Soft, Rihanna, or Lady Gaga, or maybe Harry Styles. Speaking of Harry Styles, the next album that we are going to review or talk about is Mr. This is going to be embarrassing, but I believe the name of this album is Harry. I could be wrong, and feel free to roast me in the comments about the title of the album. But when it comes to this album, and this is no hate towards Harry because I believe he has some of the best like male pop in the industry when it comes to like artistic exploration and expression. I just feel like this album was kind of lacking in lyrical content and the messaging overall. Like standouts to me definitely were Sign of the Times. While I do recognize that is a popular song from this album, I feel like it just sums up the album's feel in total of like this exploration of self and kind of a feeling of completion with themes of not being totally aware of oneself yet. I think it could lend itself to more experience, which his later albums do reflect. So for that reason, I'd give it a 3 out of 5 out of 5. Now, for the next album, we're going to talk about another king of pop, and that is The Weeknd's Starboy. Now, with this album, I really do appreciate the artistic vision when it comes to the visuals of the album and the vinyl as well, including the album cover and just like the whole aesthetic of all of his songs, specifically on this album. And I think this album really speaks to exemplary pop. It just screams of this is made for people to bounce and dance and bob their heads and get stuck in their ears. And that reason being the excellent lyrical composition and production, similar to your Hit Me Hard and Soft, but in a different facet, kind of. It's kind of more surface level, not in a basic way, but in a kind of pop way, where it's kind of broad in its concepts and not as specific as I would say Hit Me Hard and Soft is. And for that reason, I would give it a 4 out of 5, simply being because for it to be a bit better for me, I'm not quite sure what it would need, but it does lend itself to making kind of fatigued of the sound of like the synths or the snares that are kind of a staple in the beginning songs, and for that reason, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Now, to move on to the next song, we are talking about Mr. California himself, Mr. Kendrick Lamar, Mr. K. Dot. Now, Damn is an album I really didn't know much about, and to be honest, I still don't quite know much about it. I have given it a listen, but it is kind of outside of my realm of music, so forgive me if I'm not more specific in my description of why I give it the rating I do give it in a few moments. I really like the lyrical composition. I really always find Kendrick's lyrical composition to be kind of witty and fun and have a lot of variety. And I also just like his flow. I like his demeanor and his cadence more so. In his verses specifically, I feel like that's where he really shines. And for that reason, I'd give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5. I feel like lyrics and production and cadence are really perfect in this album. But just because of my lack of knowledge and kind of being outside of my musical taste, I'd give it a 4 out of 5 out of 5. Now, I'm talking about the next album. Again, this is a bit out of my sphere of music, but I can recognize its ability to convey a vibe, and that would be Miss Clairo. Miss Clairo with Miss Charm. Miss Charm is very charming. That is really, I would really describe this album as charming, with its melodic song structure and sultry kind of folk vocals. This album really conveys a kind of sound best, and her ability to create this like pillowy effect with her lyrics and production are really stand out. And for that reason, I'd give this album a 4 out of 5. Only reason being, again, it is kind of out of my sphere of music. But moving on to an album that I enjoy greatly, which might surprise some people because they may not expect me to enjoy this type of music, but never stereotype, never guess. It is Miss T Swizzle with Miss, if I could focus, Miss Folklore. Again, I love this album specifically because just like all of her other albums, her lyrical content, man, it's just so like visible, and imagery and personification of so many things, and just literary composition is just such a standout in her music. And specifically with Folklore, I really feel like I'm reading like a early 1900s like writer really flesh out a letter or something. It listens like a letter. It kind of feels like a letter. Its themes are almost like literary. It kind of just sounds like how it looks, if that makes sense. And for that reason, I would give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5. I really think it's exemplary in so many ways. Now, a major juxtaposition and a complete 360 genre would have to be Miss Midnight's, if it could focus. Alright, I don't think it's gonna focus, that's great. But yes, okay, there we go. Miss Midnight's by Miss T Swizzle again, Miss Taylor Swift. I would have to say, yeah, this is probably my favorite album from Taylor Swift, just because I really like how it lends itself to its pop roots. It kind of just gives in to the fact that it's a pop album, and the choruses are addicting, the song titles are addicting, the way she sings in this album is addicting, there's some variation, and overall, I feel like it's just a masterly created album that really conveys some of Taylor's best work, and for that reason, I give it a 5 out of 5. Now, thank you guys for making it so far in the video. I know this is a longer video, which is the first of its kind of for me, but I really wanted to delve into these vinyls and kind of, if you heard that, I'm sorry, that's my dad in the background. I really wanted to go in depth with these albums, like in my review video, my 5 top albums review of 2024, which again you should go and look and watch because I really think you get a similar vibe. But yeah, and the next album that we'll be talking about, and the final Taylor Swift album that we'll be talking about, is Miss Tortured Poets Department. If they could focus, that would be great. Yes, Miss Tortured Poets Department. And I know some people are going to be frustrated, but I think this album is kind of lacking in ways. I think it kind of falls prey to being repetitive in terms of sound, like sonically, some of the production sounds the same, but Jack Antonoff is a great producer. I just think that they maybe needed more versatility or new sounds when coming out with this album. And in terms of lyrical content, I do think this is a great album, but not as like provoking or concentrated as say Midnights or Reputation, where like the excitement of the lyrics. This is more like it's a vibe, lyrics, but yeah. For that reason, I give this album a 4 to 5. Now, for the queen of music, Miss Beyonce. Beyonce! If you know, you know. We're gonna be talking about Miss Rennie. Miss Renaissance. But, in case she doesn't want to focus for y'all, but you can see Miss Renee in all of her glory. Love that girl. This is a perfect album. I'm sorry. It's one of Beyonce's best. It's giving formation, embodied, and perfected. Lyrics, great. Composition, great. Transitions, great. Vibe, great. It's just a versatile and amazing piece of work, and I can't give it anything else besides 5 out of 5, simply because I feel that it excels in every area. It really showcases how far Beyonce has come in her career in terms of her lyrics and production and composition of her music. It's just perfect to me. Um, Now, next we have the famous Cowboy Carter. Look at that cover. That is amazing. And this, it is just simply so artistic in its depth as an album. I really feel like it is so cumulative as an album. It just shows off, again, Beyonce's best work. But in comparison to Renaissance, I would say that some of the spice is kind of lacking, and that is because of its country origins. While that's not a bad thing, this album is definitely more of a on a drive, kind of a smoke and listen kind of basis. I really think it's more for the laid back approach, not necessarily worse, but a different type of listening experience. And for that reason, I would have to give this album a 4 to 5 out of 5. While yes, I don't prefer it as much as Renaissance, it is still an exemplary piece of her work to date. Now, I'm actually gonna skip this next album because there have been accusations against this artist, and some of them have been proven true, and I really don't want to highlight artists like that and that promote this type of thing coming from a survivor of sexual assault myself. That would be Melanie Martinez, If It Could Focus, which it doesn't want to do because it's white. Yes, Miss Crybaby, I love it, but I am not willing to promote an artist that has been proven for that kind of behavior. I'm sorry if you're a fan, but I just can't condone that. And if you spew hate towards this, I really ask you to question yourself what type of person you are and some of the ways you're thinking about certain issues. Now, an example of masterpiece would have to be this next vinyl say it, but it's Rihanna, is perfect. I think of this like I think of Renaissance. I think this is a pinnacle of pop. I think this is a pinnacle of music. There's just variation in every sense: lyrical composition, production, vocals, aesthetic, timbre. There's just so much to this album that I think that makes it a great album and a excellent listening experience. I would consider it a classic, and for that reason, I'd give it a 5 out of 5. Now, woo, the next album I'm going to be talking about is one that I hold near and dear to my heart because this is kind of the turning point of my experience with this artist. When this album came out, I really started to pay attention to her, which everybody did because it is none other than Miss Ariana Grande, or Miss Araña Grande, or Big Spider in Spanish, and the album is Thank You Next. This album to me is just great in every sense. In terms of emotion that she's conveying and ability to get you excited and riled up, it achieves it on all bases. In addition to that, the lyrics and obviously vocals. She is one of the best vocalists in our generation, in league with Adele, Beyonce, The Weeknd, Rihanna, you name it. It is just great in all areas that it encompasses, and I really think that it speaks for itself, and I would give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5. The only reason being is that I have another album in here by her that I consider a 5 by 5, and I will go into depth why I think 5 out of 5. Let me correct myself, and I will elaborate on that. That album being Miss Eternal Sunshine. As we all know, and many people agree, this is Ariana's best work in terms of emotions, in terms of lyrics, in terms of production. Max Martin really does his thing here. Such addictive choruses, such addictive melodies, such addictive production that I feel like this album really is just. I feel like it is the magnum opus or like greatest thing Ariana has put out. And some of the artistic vision that has come out of this album rivals any of her previous work, I would say. The only thing that I feel like would come close is Sweetener, with like God as a Woman and other things like that. Other than that, yeah, I think the earning of a 5.5 is really, of a 5 out of 5, is really warranted here. It's just a great album overall. Now, a complete 360 and another icon in pop is Miss Doja, is Miss Hot Pink. Now, this album is short and sweet. Hint later on. It is short and sweet. It is lyrical genius compacted. It is hooking. It is entrancing and attractive hooks confined. It is just a masterclass in reeling your attention in and you staying for the lyrics and production and the ability for you to feel alive while listening to this music. While being said, I do think this kind of reflects a little bit more for amateur lyrical abilities, and for that reason I have to give it a 4 out of 5, just because I feel like some of her latest work, like Scarlet Deluxe, and Hot Pink, really exemplify some of her improved work. Now, the next album I'll be talking about is Miss Tyler, the Creator. If it would focus, that would be greatly appreciated. Yes. Miss Call Me If You Get Lost. And I think just like Kendrick's or K-Dot's album, this is great. In terms of lyrics, in terms of sonics, I think what Tyler does really great is create a vibe. I know I've used that word a lot, but I think out of everybody today, he really knows how to create a vibe when it comes to conveying his lyrics. It is honestly alternative in nature, and it's not solely rap or hip hop. It is kind of transformative in his music, and I think he's one of the only artists that can do that nowadays, and it's just so special, I think, to the whole music genre in total. And I would give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5, just because of its ability to, again, create a vibe. Now, one of my newer finds that I love, and I was actually a Gov for one of her career-defining performances. I will forever flex that because those tickets were expensive. But we have none other than the drag queen herself. We have Miss Chappell Roan with Miss, alright, Miss Chappell Roan herself with Miss. I'm forgetting the name of the album. Quick intermission while I look up the name of this album. Of course, this happens to me as I'm recording a video for y'all, but not to fear. The Rise and Fall of a Midwestern Princess. Yes, and I feel like that title really encompasses this album. It really conveys an ebb and flow of somebody's life. And the ups and downs in this album are really great. I think production is some of the best in the industry. I think she became a superstar so quickly for a reason. She is just that exemplary. And I also relish in the fact that she also is vocal about her struggles with bipolar disorder, which I have as well. And it kind of just really speaks to her artistic ability and her ability not to stand up to shit. I know some people find her insufferable. I know some people find her offensive, but I beg you to really question what context you've seen some clips in or some bits of her personality in, and examine what you would do in that situation and how she is processing this all as it comes. Overall, I'd give this album a 5 out of 5. I think it's perfect. Now, when talking about vocals, I think we have to give it up to Miss Renee Rapp. Miss Snow Angel, an album that will forever change the way I see vocals. I think her vocals are the standout of this album. I love the lyrical content as well. Music production is one of my lesser favorite parts of this album, but I feel like I really don't need to focus on that when the vocals and the emotion she's conveying is so perfect in this album. Some of her climaxes in songs like Snow Angel and Talk Too Much are just great. And overall, I'd give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5. Now, when you talk about an album that is a party album, or that really gets you moving, like Anti by Rihanna, we have Miss Camila Cabello. We have Miss Camila Cabello with XOXO. I think this album is just so cute. I think the aesthetic of this album was so creative. It really lent itself to this party girl kind of manic pixie dream Barbie girl kind of vibe, and the music kind of reflects that, being it with upbeat tempos, with party-like vibes, with production that seems like it's made for the Miami scene. It's made for that nightlife. It's made to be felt in an intense way. And I think her lyrics really shine through on this album as some of the most creative that she's ever created. And I would give this album a 4 out of 5 out of 5. And if it seems like a lot of these albums have similar ratings, it is because this is a curation of vinyls that I would choose to buy. And if I choose to buy it, I probably already like it, or it is high in my priority in terms of all music ever made. Now, the next album that we will be talking about is Miss Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana. Yes, that is me flexing my seal of literacy in Spanish. This album I feel really exemplifies Bad Bunny's talent to convey a message. I think that's where he shines through the best. His themes of no regret and living life to the fullest and kind of being oneself really shine through in all of his music. I think the lyrical content is great, and I think the production is amazing. I feel overall it is just a great album. For this, I would give it 4 out of 5, simply because, again, it's a little out of the sphere of music I'm used to, but it is still a great album. Now, the legend of legends of album. The most talked about album probably of 2024, the one that revolutionized her career, is Miss Brat. Miss 365 pumping that. Yes, Miss Brat. I think this is a perfect album. Lyrics are vulnerable while also exciting. Production is so like versatile that at some points it doesn't even sound like the same album, but in a good way. And her vocals on some part of this album, I think, are like moderate to very good. And I just think the cohesiveness on this album is what makes it so great. Like when you think of Brat, you know what it is. You know the chaos. You know the themes of being yourself no matter what, and you know the themes of getting what you want when you face so many obstacles. It is just a perfect album overall, and for that reason, I give it a 5 out of 5. Now, for the last vinyl that we will be reviewing today, I have to give you one that I hinted at with Miss Hit Me Hard and Soft earlier in the video, and that would be Miss Sabrini Weenie Carpentini. Thank you, H.T. Hayes, for giving me that phrase. I love it. Yes, with Miss Short and Sweet. I truly think, like the artistic vision in this album, it lends itself so great to the title, and it truly encompasses an album that is short and sweet. And I think that for me is an album that is concentrated, an album that really lends itself to it not being so long, but being so qualitative in quality. I think it's some of her most addictive melodies, it's some of her most addictive lyrics, and in terms of production, there is so much versatility on this album. And it is just a hallmark of her career, and the Short and Sweet tour, which I did go to, which you can find on my Instagram at Justin Daniel Pedro, was amazing. The choreography, the vibes, the vocals, everything was just on point. And I really think it's a perfect album, which is why I'll be giving it a 5 out of 5. And with that, I conclude my vinyl review. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed all of my descriptions of these albums. I hope you guys can put on this video in the background while you're doing something like tasks or chores that you have to do, since it is a lengthier video. But I really appreciate just you guys paying attention and kind of being there for me and kind of building the community that will be growing one day, manifesting and putting in the work too. And with that, I really conclude this video. I hope you liked and enjoy. Please like and share and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.